Well, welcome back. Another exciting evening of building a RatRig V-Core 3.1. Not anyone, but the 500. It's quite nice to see a frame next to me. We had a lot of fun last night putting this frame together. Franz helping me. Much appreciated for his help. And I'm really excited to get to the next step, which is putting together the actual motion system. Tonight is going to say a lot of messy work, a little bit of grease and oils and things like that. So you'll see me throwing on gloves every now and again, but it's probably one of the most exciting pieces because you're actually starting to put some of the actual critical components that move up and down and around. So I don't know how far we're going to get tonight. Again, the plan is not to rush it, but just to get it done as in the most proficient and without I want to say proficient and accurate method as possible, without compromising or cutting corners in any way. I only want to build this machine once. I don't want to build it twice. So you'll see I've changed a bit of the camera angles. Last night was a great lesson in how big this machine really is and the challenges of filming a printer of this size and putting it together. But tonight at least we can keep the cameras a little bit less moving around, and we're going to try and keep the camera static as much as possible, and I've changed some of the views. Maybe you'll be able to see a little bit better what my hands will be doing and on the printer itself. But yeah, let's get cracking. I really want to get started tonight and get going on this one. I think what's important for me is that I just point out two items from last night which we figured out post stream we hadn't completed properly. And I think what I'll do is I'm going to just have a look at the documentation and go back to that screen while I'm talking to you, so that we can actually get to the point where I will show you what we did. Maybe you say, well, we definitely did it wrong, but it wasn't clearly indicated on the document. So I'm going to just scroll there before I make you all dizzy with my fast scrolling, and I'm going to come to this page. So I'm sorry, wrong one. Let's try again. So in the documentation last night, they said if you plan to use this extrusion, then you need to put these screws in. If you're going to do a single panel on this extrusion frame that we put together, if you're going to put a single panel together, you should put it together now, because it's very difficult to get it out. And yes, once it's in, it's in. It really is stuck in on the machine. But what they didn't mention, and what you cannot see over here in the middle, is these M6 bolts that we put in go around the side also need to be put on the back of this cage, this rib cage that you're putting in, where you're going to, well, it's basically a wire manager that you're going to be using. And those M6 nuts will also need to be pushed into that cross member at the back and tightened up front. So please, when you do that, make sure that you actually put this in. It's important to put it in, because otherwise to get those M6 nuts in is quite a challenge. Last night we had to remove this bar again and bring it out, put all the nuts back in, put it back in. So a bit of a waste of time, but lesson learned. The next thing is when we got to the motors, which they don't also clearly indicate, and I think it's on the next page. Let's see over here. When they're asking you to put these motors together, they don't really indicate where you're going to put the connector for the motor. So with that, you could put the connector in the wrong direction. and I'll just give you a quick look as to where we eventually placed them. And you need to sort of put your head around it and orientate your head around that. So if you have a look over there, we've made sure that our connectors are facing towards the back of the machine, right? On both the front units, they're also facing the back of the machine, and then the back one is facing inwards. That way you've just got easy access to the actual connectors when you need to work with them at a later stage. Those are pretty much the only two things we picked up last night that I can say we fixed through the day and got ready for tonight's stream again. I'm going to start off tonight immediately with the motion system and the rails. Let me just have a look. We're going to the linear rails, and while I'm displaying that, I just want to quickly change one thing in the background. You can hear my hydroponics and my machine going crazy in the background. Yes, the plants need air, so there's bubbles running into the system, but let me switch it off because you might hear a nicer sound with that on. So, linear rails. Quite a few things I can mention about linear rails, and I think one of the things that I've picked up about linear rails is you can mess it up so quickly. Now, I bought quite a few linear rails for my Creality machine that I put together, and in that machine I listened to all the videos that I could possibly listen to, all the opinions, to put it this way, and I watched videos to endless degree, how to clean linear rails, how to put grease in linear rails, and how to replace the ball bearings and all of these things. And let me tell you my finding. It's a mess. I am back at the opinion that if you're not buying the highest quality Highwind directly from Highwind themselves, or Musumo linear rails, then you cannot swap and change bearings that easily, right? Yes, there are people that do it successfully. Yes, I did it on some of mine, but eventually I just bought a new set of rails and I didn't touch them. And the reason why is each one of these rails have been tested in the factory, and they've been the blocks are mass produced and the rails are mass produced, so they make sure that they've basically tuned that block to that rail, right? I don't know how they do it. I still want to go and read up a little bit more and understand that, but I took the blocks off and I stripped them all and I cleaned them all and I put new higher quality bearings in, and then when I put the blocks on, I had such a bad time trying to get the rails to run smoothly. So in the documentation that is coming from RatRig, one of the things that they actually say is the rail carriages, and I'll just bring it up here. The rail carriages are not interchangeable. At the bottom of here, they will say, I see I'm cutting off a little bit of the text. Let me just bring it like that for you. Do not try use a carriage on a different linear rail than the one it was supplied with. And I cannot explain, what's the name? What do you want? How would you say? Strongly more express this, that is critical, because you could probably never get it back to the way it was. The risk is there. And also, when you take these rails off, you've got hundreds of little balls inside that rail sitting on very fine carriages. If they drop, good luck finding them. They're gone. They bounce in a million directions. You'll never find them all again. The only thing that'll find them eventually is the vacuum cleaner one day. So do not take them off at any cost. All right. just keep them on the rails and use the rails as is. We are going to go through some basic steps with the rails, and we'll start doing that now. But for that, we'll carry on. And then I think one of the other things that we're going to talk about is actually lubricating the rails and how to lubricate the rails. So let me go to this view, and the intention of this view is for you to be able to see a couple of things while I'm doing it, and then if I've got it right, you should be able to see most of what's happening on the screen and by my hands. So we've got, again, remember we're building the bigger rig, and so we need to make sure that we have the measurements for the 500. So instead of reading their 2x350s, we need to have 2x550s and 3x600s. So there's your 3 600s, there's your 2 550s, and then instead of 38 screws, we're privileged because we went big school. We're going to do 58 nuts and screws to get these rails in place. They then go further on to say, how to clean and unpack the rails, and this is where paper toweling becomes quite important. You'll see I'm working on a mat, a little bit of an absorbent mat, but the reason why I'm working on the mat is so that I don't get the rest of the table full of oil, and then the rest of my parts and my prints will be looking all oily for the rest of the build. And the other thing that I'm going to be doing is wearing gloves again. As I said, they actually strongly recommend using disposable gloves to build, and I also recommend them, quite strongly recommend them. Again, these rails were in the boxes when they came, and they have been so well oiled that the oil actually started running out of the mixture out of the box, and I was actually quite impressed how well they are oiled, and I think that's testament to how they try and keep a good quality product. So without further ado, let's start pulling out these rails one for one. I'm going to start pulling out lots of paper just so that I can wipe them down as we go, and we'll see how it goes. If you hear a cat meowing in the background, we've got one Arabian meow that likes to be very verbal, and we've got another one, a cat sitting around the corner that's very scared of the verbal cat. So don't be surprised if you have a little bit of a tiff fight between our cats. Hopefully they won't do it while we're streaming tonight. So, rails. I just want to show you a little bit closer on that camera. That's what it looks like. You can see the oil sitting inside there. It's very well oiled. My hands are already full of oil just touching the rail for a couple of seconds. I didn't bring a knife to cut this with. Let me grab something to cut this with because it's going to be very slippery. All right. Just cut them all off quickly, and then that's out of the way. Mr. Fig, can you tell me the music okay? We need it a little bit louder, or we're good? We're good tonight. A little bit louder. Okay, let's push the music up a little bit louder. Just a bit. Okay. You're not supposed to be dancing. You should just not hear the awful quietness when I'm trying to think about what I'm doing. And yeah, one of my cats are already trying to figure out what's going on. So meet Mr. Cat number 1, and she's now going to come investigate what is going on here, and she will probably meow and scream at us along the way. I'm going to have to chase you away. Come, Mr. Cat. There you go. disappear, because she will climb onto everything, and I really don't want to have all that cat hair inside my linear rails. Okay, let's grab that one out. I'm just going to take them all out first and just place them down here. Just easier to work with. The packets are so full of oil, it's just incredible. Nice and shiny. Right, take that out of the way. Maybe we can take this bubble wrap that I definitely will not give to the kids to pop, because it's so full of oil, I don't want them touching it. And what we're basically going to do, first of all, is just wipe down the rails. I'm just going to give them a bit of a wipe. You put that one there, and I'll take this one. Right. Oh no, don't put that on that, because just now push a key and then you disappear on me. As I said, we would have a cat fight somewhere along the line. Right, that's sorted. At least it only happens every now and again, and they don't hurt each other too much, but they have a very good understanding. My place is downstairs, your place is upstairs. Let's not interfere with each other there. Okay, so I'm just going to take a towel and I'm going to lightly wipe it down. The objective is definitely not to get all the oil off, right? We just want to get some of their excess oil off. We don't have to get it bone dry. These rails are pretty good in that sense. Oh my goodness, and let me just bend down and grab that. I dropped the little blue rubber. So on the end are these little rubbers, and those rubbers are there so that your your blocks don't slide off, because as you can see, these things slide very easily, right? And it slides off when it slides and hits the ground. Those little bearings go everywhere, and you have a very interesting time after that. And one thing they will not supply you in the pack is extra ball bearings for the rails, because you should just not be taking them out. Okay. I've got 2 sets of rails lying at the top there with 4 different blocks. I've tried to match it as best I can. Not bad, some of them. I need to sit down one day and just try and figure out which rail was on which rod, which block was on which rail, and just see if I can recover some of those rails. I'm actually thinking that maybe one of my friends down the road here might benefit from having that on his printer, so if I do the effort, he can maybe have those rails from me for nothing. I'll just donate them, because I can't use those rails on any one of my printers at this point in time. They're too short, and they were built for a specific printer, and he has one of those. I'm going to keep watching my lapel mic, because somehow this lapel mic just it says didn't charge, although it's been on charge all day. I don't understand why. Now, I don't know if it's the software that's incorrect, or it's the batteries that are not charging in the lapel mic. So if anybody sees me moving my lips and I don't see and you don't hear any sound, please let me know, so that I can come back and quickly switch to a manual mic. I've got a backup next to me here. It's also connected. Might need to do some changes and some settings, but then we'll be good again. Right, so in general, I've taken off a reasonable amount of the oil, and I'm not going to take it off too much. And the one thing that they're going to tell us to do is to maybe oil the rails the way we want to, because we've now wiped off quite a bit of the oil itself. There are so many different opinions as to which oils to use. I've just stuck with two very basic one brand which I've used on all my printers, and so far that's done very well. But I'm sure there's lots of other synthetic oils out there. This one being, say, Super Lube, which is just a multi-use synthetic oil. Lots of the guys do use this, and it works well. And then as a grease, you want a very thinnish grease, not too thick, also not too runny. I use this lubrication grease from Super Lube as well. Works very well for me. I haven't had any issues with it. Unfortunately, in the UAE, not available yet, but or Amazon, will pick it up for you from pretty much anywhere in the world and deliver it, so you can get it from them. I'm going to, just as a precaution on my side, I'm going to take the rails and I'm going to rub them down with the oil that I have. Okay. Just so that I know that I've got this oil on as well, and they're good. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to grease. Now, in the brief over here where they talk about how to protect the rails and removing the oils and stuff, they say that some people will remove them, some people will not. They talk about a 3-in-1 or a sewing machine oil, and just to apply it very, very liberally over the whole machine. They talk about more advanced users wanting to fully grease the rails. I'm going to grease, and I'm going to show you a method of greasing which works for me. I've actually learned it from Nero 3D, and I was quite impressed. I used it on a couple of my other machines, and it's just so much easier while the rails are off. When the rails are on, yes, it is slightly harder to grease them, but we'll have a look at that quickly. So before we go into any further tests and stuff like that, let's have a look at how I'm going to grease these rails. Let's go with a view like that. You can see a little bit closer. So on the back of the rail, you'll see, and it's going to be difficult to get the focus there, you'll see little bearings inside that rail. Right, there we go. And you can see those bearings move backwards and forwards inside there. Now those balls need to move freely. Now you actually want to get the grease in there. So one way is actually to try and push the grease in there and actually see if you can pack them with a bit of grease that way. The other way is some bearings blocks come on the end. I'm going to try and show it to you with a little hole. There you can see it in the middle. Right, there's a little hole in the middle, and that little hole is normally a grease chamber that you can go through. Now, the question really is, on some blocks it works and some it doesn't. So the easiest way to check if it actually works is you take your grease with a little tube, a point on the front, get it close to the end, and just without letting it come off the rail. Right. Get the block close to the end and squeeze some grease in. So far on these, it does look like it's pushing it in. All right. Maybe not so great. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's working fantastically. As I said, the other way is to try and put this grease on the top over there, and then to try and rub it into the sides, and you will get the grease in, it'll go in a little bit, and you can roll it backwards and forwards and do that. But the better way that I've now recently learned is to actually put the block down. Maybe I can try and get the camera a little bit closer. Let's see. We do really get it down to where I am. Where am I? This one. Yeah. Right. There we go. Just stay in focus, please. And so, instead of having to take that little blue cap off, leave the blue cap in, right? Turn the rail upside down, move the block over one of the holes, right? And then put your grease there and squeeze the grease through the hole, because what's happening is you've got this hole at the top, okay? And then you've got a very flat surface on the top as well, and it's got to go either left or right. It can't all come out to the ends. But on the ends, we've got sealed gaskets. That's why if I put a bit of grease over there, just for argument's sake, right, and I do that, you can see the grease just stayed there. It didn't actually go in because it can't get in because of the rubber seal that's on the end that's blocking it, right? So the best way we found now to do it is to put it on there and then squeeze. Right. Now I hope I can get you to see this. Can you see that the grease actually came out the sides, right? So it actually went right through. On both sides I've got grease peeling out. And I can now take that and just move that backwards and forwards, and you can literally feel the grease has gone in there. Now, that's on those set of balls that are there. This works on a cyclic manner, the bearings inside there. So what I now do is I just move it to, you can see as the balls move, I just move it a couple of holes on again, and I then do another squeeze, so that I can get another set of balls into the range. And then I just move it backwards and forwards like this, right? And very quickly, I've now pretty much put grease inside there. And that grease is going to last quite some time. You really don't need to grease these things all that often. You know, I've done probably in 60-degree chamber on that Voron, I've done how many hours of printing already? And on the big printer, probably in over 100 hours of printing, right? And I haven't had to replace it yet. It's there and it works, right? And that's it. Now, yes, I do have 2 holes that I've got grease in them, but that's not going to make any damage. As it heats up inside the chamber, that grease will maybe move out a little bit. I'm going to put a screw through there in any case. It's going to squeeze it out, and then I'm just going to let it go wherever it wants to go. I'm not going to worry about the grease inside there because that just adds to the whole rail. But now I've got quite a bit of grease in there, and it's removing quite smoothly. So that's the easiest way I found, and thank you to Mr. Nero for sharing that with us. I don't know where he got it from. Kudos to the guy that did that before him. I just think that's really the easiest way of getting these things done. Also, what they mentioned in the documentation, just going a little bit further, is when you've got the rail put down like this, you should feel that it moves smoothly right across the whole mill. Now, it could make this little, you could feel like a bit of grinding sometimes, or a little bit of binding, but as long as it's not binding up, meaning it's not getting stuck, right? Now, because I put the grease in, it will move a little bit slower. In other words, the grease is in the bearings. It takes a little bit longer to get there. Let me come back to full main view. You can see now it takes a little bit longer to move across, but that's because the grease is in there, and that's not going to cause any problem. Whereas without the grease, they can move quite a bit faster. Let's take this one for argument's sake. When it moves quite a bit faster. Okay. Whereas this one will now move more, I'm gonna say, consistently. It's like it's brought its consistency. Also, if you push down on the bearing you'll feel it will remove a lot smoother. It's because bearings, these blocks and these rails are actually built to have a load on them. They work better with a load on. But because we're using them on 3D printing, we're not really going to have much load on it. Specifically on the RatRig, because it's hanging upside down, you're not going to have that load. But anyways, that's just some extra details. So, without a further ado, let me quickly squeeze some grease into each one and get that done. And I'll bring you out over there again, and then you can watch the process from the side. Let's move you back a little bit, then you can see a bit more. There we go. So I've just squeezed it in, move it a little bit, and then move it on like 3 or 4 holes, and then squeeze again. It's really quite cool to see it actually come through on the edges. And there we go. And that's enough grease for now. And yes, as I say, you're going to pick up a little bit of grease on the ends, because what comes through the hole normally just pushes on the sides when you go past the hole. In any case, clear that out a little bit. Nothing serious. And just check it up and down the full length. Very good. Next one. Yeah, Robert, well, there's a difference between the one cat and the other cat. The other cat just wants to scream and get food out of you all the time. It's not about the inquisitiveness, although she can be a little bit inquisitive. The other one is just desperate for attention at this point in time, because the family are away and I'm the only one here. So it comes down the whole time to try and get attention from me, which I can understand. And then it has to deal with the Arabian Mal that thinks she owns the world downstairs. And she pretty much does. She's quite aggressive, but that's just the way our cats live, you know. They've got to learn to sort out their differences. All right, that one there. You can see this process is so much faster. In the past, I used to take the block off and then put the grease into the bearings, and then the balls used to fall out, and then I put other balls in, and it was just such a mission. This is just so much faster. And I probably save a ton of grease doing this. Even though I wipe some of it off, it's just so much more efficient because I get that grease in there very quickly. I think on the side of these bearings you probably could get grease in, but I just find it better just to do this method. And excess grease is not a bad thing. That one's coming out only on the one side a little bit, so let's just move it a little bit on and see if we can get some more traction there. Yeah, that's better. And then move it on. And let me tell you, a tube of this grease lasts forever. There's a lot of grease inside there. So even though it might be a bit pricey, it's just worth buying it and getting it over and done with. I actually bought 3 tubes of the grease because it came as a special package of 3. Okay, so I think I've got enough grease in there. That should be fine for now. And yes, how often do we need to grease them? Probably after probably about 100 or so hours worth of greasing. You can just put a bit of grease in again. it becomes a little bit harder now with the grease being the rails being on the frame to grease them, because now you've got to try and push it in the side, or you've got to take your rails off and just clean them off and service them. Taking the rails off is probably the easiest, but I haven't worked with these rails specifically before, so what I will do this time is I'll actually try and see if I get the one block and put a needle inside there and just see how much I can actually screw it in, and if it does come out. But for now, this was the quickest way while building. Okay, then let's take another piece of paper, and because we've now rubbed so much of these rails already, we've taken a lot of oil off. Let's put some oil onto this paper. Alright, and just take each rail and run it through as quickly as possible through the oil, just to get that extra bit of protection on. I like to know that these rails aren't going to rust. We live in a very humid area, coastal, believe it or not. In Abu Dhabi we have enough humidity, so I just want to make sure we don't leave the rails dry in any way. You can understand why we're wearing gloves tonight. It's very, very messy. And no, this doesn't affect your prints, because nothing touches this part. This on the side, you shouldn't be touching it at all through the print, and you shouldn't actually be touching them at all at any point in time, unless you're going to put them on, take them off. That's the only time you should actually be putting your hands on these. So, Mr. Robert, you ready for a linear rail upgrade? That endo of yours feel like it needs to be running smoothly, or are you still happy with your wheels? We have it. Probably one of the jobs I least enjoy is getting all of this ready, up and running, all oiled out. Yeah, so let's go back to the documentation. I'm trying not to touch all the equipment with my hands. And all they're saying over there is that we're going to repeat the test of making sure that they're moving slowly and that nothing binds up. And then they've got at the bottom they've got a link to say, if you have any problems, here's some troubleshooting. I'm not going to go through that now. I don't think it adds value to this session today. The next thing is we're going to start putting all the screws onto these rails. And also the T-nuts, so that we can start installing them. Now, guys, just remember one thing: when you start pulling these little rubber plugs out, which is pretty much the first thing they advise to do. Let me just go there. They tell you to pull those plugs out. Be careful, because if you tilt this thing and it falls off, as I say, it will just roll out. Right. So we're going to do that. We're going to put the screws in, we're going to put the T-nuts on, and then we're going to get ready. So this we're going to do for with M3x12 screws and M3 nuts, and then we're going to put those onto the printer itself. So let's follow that process. This box. Tonight I've got lots of little boxes ready with lots of different little screws. So now that you'll see that they say put the screws in every other, and yeah, you don't need to put a screw in every single block. It's just not necessary. But I find it easier to do one at a time, because actually I like to keep the bottom rubber stop there just in case while I'm lifting this, that I don't lose the block. Now the other challenge is your gloves and your hands are so slippery. To actually do this is not easy. And you can't really take your gloves off because it's full of oil. And you want to try and avoid getting this oil onto everything else just now. So yeah, let me do the folding. Let me grab one more piece of paper, yeah. And I'm going to put this block like this. I'm going to turn it this way. That way I can hopefully be more proficient at doing this, and you don't have to watch me for the next 2 hours putting little screws in. Because unfortunately there's lots of these, and that's part of putting a printer together and watching a build series like this. You have to have the patience while I do the work. Unless one of you want to jump in the car and come and join me quickly, I really don't mind, but not necessary. By the time you get here I'll probably be done in any case. So there's lots of different rail manufacturers in China. As we all say, not all rails are equal. But again, in terms of the printing industry, we're not working with high forces and things like that. So most of the China rails are actually to the point okay to use, and there's no real major no. Yes, you get rails in that are just terrible, but in general, a rail that just moves pretty smoothly is fine. It's because we're not doing high speed movement like they would, or high pressure, or high well, we're doing high speed. We really are doing high speed. We're not putting excessive pressure and force on the rails. So most rails are okay. I prefer if you just shop around a little bit. I could probably recommend 1 or 2 places where to buy the rails, and I can probably recommend 1 or 2 places where not to buy the rails. But I think I'll just leave that open. If anybody's interested, you can just drop a message in the chat afterwards, and I can link where to buy these rails. Yeah, France, timetable. So if anybody didn't notice, Mr. Fig is Mr. France. I still haven't asked him what the acronym means, but I'm sure there's a very good logic behind it. Yeah, the background music, Robert, is I got it from what open source open non-licensed website where you can download royalty-free music. Is what I think that's the expression, royalty-free music. Yeah, it's actually quite nice to just have a bit of background music because it can be very, very, very quiet when people are building. So okay, so now I've just realized something. We're going to have a odd spaced rail, and I'm going to now suggest something different. You should actually do one on the one end, one on the other one on the end, and then you, at some point you'll have two holes open. And I would have preferred to have had that in the middle, just the way I prefer to do it. I was hoping there was a even amount of holes, and I should have counted beforehand. Now I need to try and remove these quickly. It's not serious, not too many. The cat's out the bag now, Mr. Fig. They know who you are. I have to say thank you to Mr. Fig. He helps me a lot with these things. It's very. Can you imagine me having to moderate the chat as well, and see what's going on in the chat and monitor the whole lot, and have oily hands? At some point, it's going to go wrong. Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got to go one more. I'm going to push that off the edge any moment. Come on, look this way. I actually forgot to switch the music off in the lounge area, so don't even know if you can hear that in the background. Again, background music. So that. One more. Goodness, what a waste of time. But that's why we do this live, so that you can see we're all human, we all make mistakes, and that I'm no pro at this, but I can also learn. Hopefully I don't make the same mistake in the next round. That would be silly. Can't get. Another thing is these gloves are so slippery. Right, one rail done. So grab the next one. And might as well do all the rails now and get it over and done with. I know it's going to be a long wait, sorry about that, but that's just part of it. So, good time to go make a cup of coffee. And enjoy your coffee while I put bolts in. So I think what we should do is get France to build the next print himself. Or we get Robert in France to do a build. Find a printer that's interesting to build. Maybe a VZ bot or a Boron. Who knows? Robert's son to come in from SA and from South Africa and build a printing farm here. I think, Terry, you were going to do some printing. It feels like this AC is not on here. Very hot day here in Abu Dhabi. Very, very hot. Can't remember seeing the temperature exactly. It was when I left this morning from the track. It was around 48 in my car. Wouldn't be surprised if it's just over the 50 today. That's degrees Celsius. Yes, it does get that hot, yeah. Human skeleton for Hannah. That's anatomy. Oh goodness. Maybe. I don't know if you can. I don't think you can drop pictures in the chat. That would be good. I don't think you can drop a picture in the chat. That's what he says. It's incredible the heat that we're having. Incredible. Almost like people look at you funny and they laugh at you. You must be lying. It doesn't get that hot anywhere in the world. It does. Actually, talking to another guy, not too long ago, RatRig, saying to me, even just down the road in Bahrain, it's not as hot as what it is here. The humidity and the heat over here works somehow. It could be the same throughout the region in the Gulf. If you can go to Dubai and it can drop, which is what, 100 kilometers, give or take, and drop a whole 1 or 2 degrees easily. So probably Bahrain being down the road in Qatar and Saudi, probably feasible to do this quite quickly. Again. That's the one. Whoops, a little bit right. And so, for Mr. Terrence's knowledge, you asked an interesting question the other day about how tight to torque these items. I don't know if you heard in last night's stream, I actually went and looked for that answer, so I thought it would be quite interesting. And the bad thing is I couldn't find the answer. Didn't have anybody on the forum even post. I posted it on one of the forums and I don't even think anybody replied. I need to check to someone did goodbye in the meantime, I'm not sure. But if we tighten the can I say the printer head, the nozzle, for those that know what the nozzle is, we tighten the nozzle at 2 Newton meters, between 2 and 2.5, depends on who you're listening to. And so you get special nozzle, can I say nozzles, torque screwdrivers, specifically for those people moving nozzles in and out. And that's well documented everywhere, strangely enough. Okay, let me try and move that. One of the songs has just gone very loud. Let's just pull it down slightly. No, probably got one song in there that's not balanced. I probably need to take Audacity and just run a, can I say, a equalizer on that just to balance all the music. That should be a bit better now. Just let me know if it's still too high and I'll take it down some more. Okay, so yeah, the tension, the torque is not really mentioned anywhere else except for the nozzle. So I started looking around and it looks like 5 Newton meters is pretty tight. And I was wondering, so how tight am I tightening it with my hands? And how this other machine that I've got that says it can tighten up to 5 Newton meters, how tight is that? Does it get close to 5 Newton meters? And so first thing first, I took the little cordless drill, which can do 5 Newton meters, and I tried to remove the bolt that I'd already tightened. Well, I can tell you now, I couldn't remove it. Right. So then I thought, okay, how am I going to measure this? So I've got a proper torque meter, torque wrench that I use on the cycling bike, because on those bolts I'm going to be very careful. It's carbon fiber. You don't want to tighten it too much, but you'll squeeze the frame, and or crack the frame at least. And so I put that on, and I'm measured against this drill machine, and the drilling machine actually, well, this cordless screwdriver, whatever you want to call it, was actually only hitting about 4.6 Newton meter, which again it's probably more a China brand screwdriver. It's not a Bosch or a well-known brand. And I see if you Google hard enough, you can buy it in many different names and brands, because yes, it comes from China. So each person just rebranding it and putting his name on it and selling it. But they do advertise it all of them advertise up to 5 Newton meters, and that it only goes up to about 4.6. And so I tightened a bolt with the 4.6 to see how tight that is, and then I took the Allen key and I went up to between 3 and 4 white knuckles, and I was actually tightening quite a bit further. So my guess is that I actually probably over tighten. I probably over tighten too many of the screws in general. I probably need to take it easy. But I will actually need to do some more research in terms of structural strength on a bolt, on the teeth and on threads, and basically how on mild steels, and what is the recommended torque on maximum torque on general screws that come out of the industry. Now, I can tell you now, some of the screws you buy from China, my goodness, you can put them between your teeth and pull the thread off them. But if you now buy genuine stainless steels and hardened steel nuts, it's you get some good quality strings. So I think not all screws are probably 100% equal, but I think in terms of that, I'm probably over tightening them way more than what they're supposed to be. So I'll have to learn to ease back on the on the knuckle strength. Tonight what I'll do with these ones is I've turned the machine down to its lowest torque because they're 3mm screws, and I'm going to actually use that just to tighten it. And then I'll maybe after the stream just double check them again if I'm happy with it or not, or if I feel it needs more tightening, then I'll do it manually. But for the stream, I'll just do it with the machine. It'll be faster. Sure. Long process this. Where are we in terms of time? Good hour, 1 hour gone already. I think the question was asked at some stages too. How many streams is it going to take? To be honest with you, I don't know. If I prep everything before the time, is it really a true reflection of how long it takes to build and what goes on build a machine like this? No, it isn't. So it's going to take as long as it takes, and probably about 6 or 7 sessions. I think the only session I'm really going to do some serious prep work on is when we get to the electronics and the configuration, because I'm not using the standard board, the controller board that RatRig would have sold with it. I'm sure very shortly we'll see that controller board inside their standard configuration, but it's not there yet. But other people have been using it, so I would like to just sort of prepare that one a little bit better so that I don't waste too much time during the stream. And the electronics will be a little bit different, so I might need to change the cable harnesses a bit, but I'll do that in the stream. But I'll just do some early up, making sure that I think I know what I'm going to do and not have any midstream surprises where I can't continue, or where I switch on and I let that pixie dust, that little pixie smoke come out of the controller board because I did it wrong. Last night after the stream, France and I had a look at I took the other printer out again and tried to see why it's not wanting to work. It's not wanting to work for multiple reasons. I've already changed the main controller. I've had to replace a little bit of that, and I thought, okay, that would be maybe first step one, but that didn't work. And then changed the SSR, which is the electronic relay. That started working better. So there were probably about 4 or 5 components in total that have broken, but I'm now putting it together with, can I say, lesser quality products than what it used to have in, because I don't plan to do heated printing in that anymore, because it's just not built for that heated printing. So the chambers will not be heated. I'll use it maybe now for printing like TPU. Was in discussion with someone 2 nights ago after one of the streams as well, and he said there's a possibility that I can help them with printing some of the rubber caps that they need. I'll have a look at that. That'll be interesting, and that printer would be good for that. You can just purpose it to stand outside and do the easy jobs, not the heated jobs. But anyway, so last night I also figured out that not only did I replaced the main power supply with a spare backup that I have over here, and then I realized the Raspberry Pi power supply was also giving problems. Stole one of my other Raspberry Pis and power supplies and just plugged it in for temporary, just to see if it works. It's actually the power supply that's going to go into this machine, and yeah, that started printing. So lesson well learned. Don't overheat a printer that was never meant to be heated like that. 2, 4, 5, 2, 4, 5. Almost there. This rail's a little bit of a different length again. So the two middle holes are the two holes that are open aren't just in the middle, they're slightly offset from the middle. So I'm just going to make sure when I put them in, to try and keep all things equal, I do the same on the other shorter length rod as well. These gloves are so oily, I can hardly pick up these things anymore. The screws are a little bit easier because they've got a bit more thread grip. Right, here goes the last one. And then we can get back to putting things back into the frame, which is super cool, super exciting. Every time I put something in, it's like you just feel that little bit of satisfaction, you know. I've got that piece right. I've got the next thing right, and I've got that right. And, I guess that music is a lot softer now again. Seems like there was one or two songs in the middle that are like overpowering. I see on Audacity if I can find a way to auto balance all those songs. I'll talk to Adrian, our local music specialist. We need to, if you're watching and you haven't pushed the like buttons on the videos, please push the like buttons. Very important. And that way you'll also click the subscribe button, because that helps the channel get more views, and also helps towards promoting my content. And at the same time, anything that I'm going to do, you'll probably then get informed as upcoming video or things like that. So you can see when I'm online again, post this. Although I will publish the next set of videos, next set of streams in probably the middle of this week or next weekend, once I have determined my timing as to when I'm going to do it. But I'll probably do Friday night again, Friday and Saturday night, maybe only 2 nights next week. Seeing as though it's a lot to do all streams all the time. I don't want to do Sunday nights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's a wrap. At last, hooray, we've reached the end. Now we have lots of prepped rails. Okay, let's get some things ready. I'm going to take these gloves off, dry my hands because they're very sweaty from inside there. One thing I don't like about these gloves, really. And then we can look at the rest of the document first, and I can take a sip of water, which I luckily remembered to get at the last minute. Yeah, I definitely need to do the balancing on that. The software that'll just balance all the songs out. I'll get a little bit more professional later on. All right, so we've done everything over there. We got all the blocks on. Now we go back to the frame assembly, and the first one they're going to start with is the rear one, and we're going to insert it, and then we're going to have these little blocks. Basically it fits over the extrusion, right, and it holds the rail neatly inside so that it centers the rail. Then you don't have to guess where the middle is, which really works well. We'll probably use a method that they use, but I like to do it slightly different again. So we'll start with their method, and then I'll show you how I adapt it. So, because I have experienced rails that are, can I say, ever so slightly bent, specifically the longer rails, and I just want to be careful that I don't sit with the same situation. So we're going to install the alignment tools, as I say, and we're going to fasten the 12 starting from the bottom and moving to the top so that the rail can wiggle as it wants to, and then we'll remove those. So I think we go with, I don't know, maybe we're going to try an overhead shot. Let's see if that works. I will bring in the smaller cam as well, just to show you the initial move, and then maybe we can move to the overhead cam as we go along. I'll show you that one first. Let's just see if we can give you maximum amount of rail. Okay, another set of gloves. I think after COVID and that we all don't worry about gloves that much anymore, you know. Wear gloves. To me, gloves were a strange thing up until prior to COVID, but we got used to wearing gloves very, very quickly. Okay, and I'm going to use this, and I've got it on the lowest setting so that I can not strip too much. They say that we must install the rails, and that the rails should align where, fasten, doesn't really say whether it's going to align in any specific place. So let's grab one of the rails and head over to the printer. Yeah, I say head over to the printer, I mean to the frame. Not a printer yet. Just get these all lined up. Right. See if we get that And then, as we said, we would take these. We've got a bit too much lighter, unfortunately. These brackets, and you're going to slide them over there. Let's hold that one in place, and then I'm going to slide it over there. Right. Let's go to the overhead view. So you can see I've put the one bracket there, the other bracket there. And now the rail is pretty much, it can't move left or right. It's centered, and we can start moving it. I'm going to move it up one more. Let's see if I can. They're actually stuck on that one. Let's move it below it. Okay. Now there's one screw behind the motor. That one's going to be interesting to get to. So let's do this one first. Right. I just want to take it off. I don't want to check. Yeah, that's tightened well. I'd like to get to that one below that first, so unfortunately that's going to be a bit of a tedious process because you can't get to it too easily. I could try it with this Allen key like that. That should work a little bit better. See how far we get. Okay, and then that wasn't too bad. Okay, gonna not tighten it too much. Like I always would do. Now they say leave these two items where they are, but I'm always worried about the warp in the middle of the rail. So I've got the bottom two done now. So what I like to do at this point is I like to remove this one and bring it now to the middle, because effectively that can't move anymore, right? So just balance the middle, balance the end, and then continue with the screws. In some of the rails I've actually done it little bit for little bit, but I think this is just as good working all the way around. So I want to do a test with the Allen key just quickly. Let's see if I can on the lengthwise just tighten it anywhere with my fingers. No, I can't. That's pretty tight that way. And then I'm just going to do a test. See how much. Nah, I'm happy with the machine and its capabilities to tighten. Actually, a very nice little. Why is this stuck? Oh my goodness! Wait. Just remove that. I got the block over the screw by accident. As I was saying, I'm quite impressed with this little machine's ability to use a torque and set it at the right torque to do what it needs to do. Okay. This one. Okay. I want to check this. Well, that bolt's a bit. One of those bolts that feel like it could have done better. All right. And rails moving up and down nicely. The block, I mean. And be careful not to shoot it off the top, because it can still fly off. Can't fly off the bottom anymore because it's down at the bottom there. And that's rail number 1. Nice. Let's do rail number 2. Now, what I'm going to do for rail number 2 is, because you can't see where I'm going to be, because the rails, let's just get here again, sit on the inside of the frame. You can see there. Let's go back, zoom in here a little bit. You can see it's going to sit on the inside of the frame, and so you won't see anything when I'm finished if I'm drilling from that side. So let's do one camera and you can have a look on that side. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, we can probably point you up a little bit. Okay. Let's get the next one in. They don't say anything about up or down how far, correct? Because there is a gap at the top. I would just assume that you put it all the way down to the bottom, because it can't go any higher than what that is going to go in any case. No. Okay, we'll just put it where it is on the bottom. So it'll lie against the bottom. Can't put that over there, so we'll have to put it over there. Okay. And this one we'll put over there. We'll make sure that we're between 2 screws this time, Raymond. And then we'll start from the bottom again. Okay, and then, as I said, I like to move it halfway up, just to make sure that the rail is centered in the middle as well. And that's it. Another rail in. Switch back to the overhead view so that you can see just in general. You can see a bit of a reflection on the screen as well. That's true. Well, but not so great. Okay. Okay, I'm going to move to the other side, and then we'll do it from the other side quickly. Yeah, nice when they all go in the first time. Just so much easier. That there. Put that one on top here. Just when you put these plastic guides in, make sure that they actually sit nicely. Sometimes if the guys print them, they don't print them the right size. They could have a little bit of wobble. That little bit of wobble you really want to avoid if you can. That just means they weren't printed that great. These ones seem pretty good. I didn't print these. These came with the kit. Okay, all done, all good. Start at the bottom. I just want to see something. Okay. Right. After sitting how long and putting all these screws together, watch out. It goes in so quickly. You're like almost an anticlimax, after all that effort. But okay. Looks pretty cool. Rails are going in. Okay. Yeah. Rails seems happy. Probably got a bit more grease in it than the other one. Okay. And there we have it. Rails are in. I'll just take these little rubber stops and put them one side because we will use them at some stage again when we remove the rails for service or something like that. You don't have to have these little rubber stops. You can just use a bigger bolt, or you can use a cable tie. Just push a cable tie through and holds them quite nicely in place as well. Okay, what's next? That's where are we now? There. Right, so now these rails need to go on the bottom. Now there's a little comment over here. M3 is normally between 0.6 and 2.39 Newton meter. Okay. So that's my father, and he's got time to Google that. Thank you. Appreciate. That's why I put the torque right down, because I think the lowest torque that this thing does is about 1 Newton meter. 1.4, 1.5, I think it was. 1.5. So I think that's pretty good. Don't have to tighten it any more than that. If you can see what a M6 bolt would be, that would be interesting. I'm now going to just show you this view again, or let's rather go the full view so that you can see all the wording. They say over here, now we need to replace these, put these rails on. As you can see, it sits at the bottom, right? And it could be quite difficult. They say you might want to turn the frame upside down. Well, I don't have someone with me to turn this frame upside down. And I'm not quite sure if I'm going to manage to turn this frame upside down. It might be a bit heavy. So I'm going to attempt to do the rail not upside down. I'm going to attempt to do it just without the upside down. Yeah, let's try. Let's see what happens. What we do need to know when we put in this rail in is we need to put the rail in, and it needs to be, I think it says position the rail so that it touches the 30-30 cast corner bracket shown, right? So when you put it in on the next image, they're talking about this cast bracket over here, that you want to put it against that one, so that's against the back of the machine. We need to make sure we oh sorry, I'm talking, you can't see anything, so we need to put the rail back all the way so it touches that corner piece. Okay, so let's do that quickly. Get all the little nuts straight, make for easy insertion, have all the tools ready. Okay, put that there. And clip this one on this side. Okay, so I reckon this should be able to stay in place while I'm pulling at that thing that side, and I should be able to grab the first one. Yeah. Let's do the second one as well. Okay. Then I'll move this to the middle and just keep holding the rail. Just I don't know if you can hear me while I'm drilling with this machine. To clean rails like this, if you're going to take them off and clean them, there's different ways of cleaning them with acetones and things like that. But strangely enough, one of the things that I found works the best is Zippo lighter fluid. Really cleans them well. And you can clean them with Zippo lighter fluid, and then after that you clean them with what's it? basically a pure 99% alcohol mix, just to get all the other oils off that the zipper fluid might have left behind, and that works really well. And then you can start your lubrication process again. Remember, if you slide it too far, it can come off, so be careful about that. It seems to be working fine. We can move over to the other side. Keep getting my gloves caught on everything. Pinch the gloves, pinch the gloves. That sits nicely there. Right, and then push against that side. Okay. Take it out. Check it into the middle-ish. Still good and good. Not going anywhere. I will tell you, one of the things that I've experienced with these screws is because they're so soft. Once you've taken them in and put them in and taken them out, some of them don't go back so well the second time. And I'm almost of the opinion then it's better just to buy a new set and replace it when you do it, because the steel is so soft on these screws. I think a lot of people differ from me and feel it's a waste, but I rather spend that couple of extra cents to make sure that I'm not going to have a problem with one of the screws breaking or thread stripping, and then I have to really battle to get it out later. Okay, so we've got all our rails in place. We've got to give it a quick check. Moves nice and clean. Put it that side, and go back to, yeah, my mouse ain't ever going to be the same again. At least it'll be well oiled. And that's it. Rails are done. So I'm just going to remove gloves. M6, 4.6 to 18 Newton meters. Okay, that's interesting. So I'm tightening the M6s probably, well, with the machine it was hitting for about 4.6, and when I then do it manually with 4 knuckle strength, it's probably going up quite a bit more, but I'm probably not getting anywhere close to 18 Newton meters. And that seems like okay. Thank you. That's good to know. I think it probably also depends a little bit on the screw. If there's probably a standard mild steel screw, because I think this what they call SS, the super stainless or stainless steel, might be a little bit stronger. But again, why are you tightening it so tight? This is really necessary. I could ask myself that question. Right, next thing is we're going to build idlers. CoreXY. So the CoreXY idler, the CoreXY rod is the actual rod that moves backwards and forward where the whole head is attached to, right? And these things are now going to, with that whole CoreXY, it all runs on belts. So these are now some of the belt pulleys that need to be in place up front, and they can sit right in the front of all these items. So let's have a look. Maybe I should get rid of my very oily papers, and I'll lay down a fresh layer just so that we can work on a white surface. It's probably easier, maybe easier to see if I do that. Right, let's get that there somewhere. We're going to need these little idlers, right? There's four of those little plates, and we're going to start off with some washers and stuff. Okay, right, let's have a look. Let's get going. First step. So we're going to take these bumpers, the Y minimum bumper parts, and I think now you've got to be careful and you've got to look at the orientation, because if you look at the first one, it goes that way around, the second one swaps around, so that at the end of the day we've got two different directions. So let's start off with the first one. Bring that side. Bring this maybe a little bit closer. Let's see, as I'm working with my hands. Right, I'll hold it as per the picture. It will be opposite for you, but I can guarantee it looks much better from my angle. And we're going to take 2 M6s. I'm gonna have a bit of oil, but it's okay. I'm not gonna have gloves on for just this. Slap it, work with it. These are the 12s, yes, 12s. Okay, let's come through like that. I must say that looks very short. You know what? Let's wear gloves, because I'm going to be spreading it all over the show. I'm going to try and stay away from spreading it all over the show. Because it goes on, the oil goes into your printed parts so easily, so you're going to try and handle them with care. And you can really see the oil on this printed part. Not nice, but anyways. Just tighten that slightly. Okay. Nuts, bolts on the top. On that direction. Try and touch the bolts only with one glove. Okay, so let's just turn that around. Okay, and this time we're going to put this plate on this way. Now, to do that. That. So there we go. They are opposite to each other. That's fine. Once we've got those two opposite to each other, looking like that, looks very much the same. Happy. Then we can move to the next set of blocks. And we're going to now put in one. These guys out. All of these. Alright. Through. Straight nut, nothing on it this time. Again, check for orientation because you want to make sure you land up with two, because if you're then going to swap this thing around and do it the same, you're going to have two of the same pieces. So just be aware of that. You'll figure it out if you've gone wrong. Won't work when you get to the printer assembly. There, we got that there. Alright, then we're now going to attach that inside. It's going to go up into the rail, and you'll see there's like a little, there's a little cutout. There you can see the cutout. Right, and that's going to go over the end of the rail. That's already installed over there, so it looks like that. And then we're going to tighten it. So I'm now going to put in a different bit into the drilling machine or the screwdriver, and I'm going to request a little bit more power. Actually, when it does go through, it actually rips your hand quite well. So okay, let's put these ones in so long, so we can go back to the overhead cam again, and I'm now going to put this one in first. Pushing it over the linear rail and making sure it's flush up against the rail. Okay. One done. Here we go with this one. Okay. And then we'll do the other side. Probably easier just to walk around. Okay, take that out. And because it's like on the bottom end of the range 4.6, I'm just going to take, can't help it, give it like a quarter turn each extra. half, a quarter turn each maybe. Yeah, that's fine. Again, you also got to remember these are plastic parts, so you can't tighten them too much, otherwise you start crushing the plastic part. Oops, and then I go the wrong way. Okay. Okay. Right. Those are in. Just so you can see it. We'll give you a quick view. That's what it looks like when it's in there. And that brow actually overlaps that little green thing a little bit. Okay. And now we move on to actually putting these bearings in place. Right. Now you've got to concentrate because you've got to get it right. So left corner, left idler, right? Because the two idlers are done differently, because one belt will be on the top and one belt will be on the bottom. So on the left, the belt is running on the top of the whole system, and on the right it runs on the bottom. So this packing order is very important. I'm going to open it, click on it a little bit further so that you can see the packing order. Okay, before going back here quickly, we're going to do the packing order. We're going to put that on. It's going to look like that. Then if you let go of the bolt, it'll just fall out and you'll have to pick up everything. So what do we need to do when we've got it there? We need to put the top on, this top piece we've already put together, and we tighten the M6 bolts, and then we put on top a M5 nylon bolt that looks like that, and it should tighten nicely. Alright, so let's go back to the packing order for the left. Alright, and we're going to do it like that. I opened up everything and I put everything neatly in a little dish for myself earlier on, so that I could actually get to the stuff easily. And I don't think there's an easy way for me to give you a very clear view of what's going to happen now. I'm going to be working here. Unfortunately, the camera is what it is, so you'll have to just trust me that I'm doing it in the right order. So, holding it there, and the first thing we're going to put on is a shim. Try and grab one with the rubber gloves if only. So we've got a shim sitting there. Then we've got a 6mm spacer and another 6mm spacer, and then another shim, okay. After the shim, I'll just point here where I am. After the shim comes the 6mm, the special bearings. We've got a 6mm inner, it's called a flange bearing. So what's important is, if you look at the bearing, let's do that, you can see it's got a little lip on it, and the lip needs to be down to the bottom because the belt's going to run on top. So put that one in. Then we're going to put a normal bearing in, right, which is this one, yeah. And then we're going to put another flange bearing on the top of that. That will keep the belt centered, not running off. And we're going to put another shim, right, and then right at the top we are going to put in a very special 3mm spacer. They only give you 2 3mm spacers. So if you lose it, you've got a problem. Don't know why they don't give you some spares of that one. I would have hoped like for 1 or 2 extra. Alright, so that's there. And then the next thing is not to let go while you're getting this bracket ready. Okay. Just on top like that. Now I know that they say I must tighten the M6 bolts first, but I'm just going to put the M5 nut in place so that I don't lose it in any way, and then I can concentrate on what I'm doing in terms of putting this thing straight. In actual fact, I want to tighten that a little bit more before, because I think that's going to pull it to where it needs to be. So I can leave that now. What I don't have lying around, I forgot to get ready, was a socket for that. So let me quickly have a look if I've got one down the bottom in this toolkit. No socket there. And give me a moment, let me grab a socket. Somewhere over here will be a socket kit. Yes, down the bottom here is a socket kit. One small, slightly bigger. Let's see, this one's good. That's nicely. I'm going to put that in there. Put that in there. So I'm going to tighten it first just a little bit so that I can sort of get it aligned, because naturally the bolt is going to pull it into the direction it wants to, according to the bottom bracket. Okay, now the bolt can't move left and right, so I can now just position the top bracket in place and tighten it down. Otherwise, if I tighten the top ones first, I might just have pulled this assembly skew. Okay, happiness is, and that is there. Where are we doing in time, in terms of time? Oh my goodness, it's already 8 o'clock. Oh, we're getting there. 3.5 knuckles. There we go. And now if I'm running my finger on those bearings, they're running super smooth. Okay, and I will just make sure that I've got this tight. It's tight, bearings running smooth. So maybe I'll just take this side camera and hold it for a second, and to show you the stack a little bit closer. I don't know if we're going to get to focus that well, but yeah, so you can sort of see what it's about. And then this is being able to spin, and this is the belt at the top. On the other one, we're going to swap this whole stack around, put the belt at the bottom. Okay, right, let's now look at the next set. Okay, so close this screen and move down to idler number 2 on the right hand side, and then follow the process on that side. Right, and same process, but make sure that we follow the correct stacking order again. Get that into place, get that into place, put that in place. Right, move around that side, and then I can just move around the printer. And start with the bolt. Right. Now I've got to look over my back shoulder here to see I've got to do it. Okay, so we start off with a shum, and then we move over to, you don't want to drop the shum, Raymond, come on. Right, then we're going to do a flange bearing with the flange to the bottom. Then we're going to do a normal bearing, and then we're going to do a flange bearing with the flange to the top, and then we've got a shum, which I've now dropped already, and I can't see where I dropped it. No, inside there. I'll get it in a little while. Just use that one. And where did it fall? It luckily fell inside the channel groove, so I can get it out. Okay, so shim. After the shim, we're going to have a 6mm spacer. And another 6mm spacer. Then a 3mm spacer. Then another shim. Alright, and then we're putting the bracket on top. Okay. Then we're putting the M5 lock nut on top of that. Put that in place. Okay, so get it in place like that. Then I'll use the same process again by first tightening this M5 quickly. I'm not making it excessively tight, but it's just before it really gets really tight, so that I can just move the top plate still. Turn the top plate a little bit. Get it lined up. Tighten the top 2 bolts again. Right, come back and just make sure the M5 stack is tight. Okay. Check the bearing, running smooth. You can come around about to the other side, and then I can grab the camera and show you the difference again between the 2 stacks. So on the bottom stack over here, see this time the bearings at the bottom and the top, whereas on this one it was the opposite way around. Okay, and that's that portion of the stack that we've just built. We still got some time, so we can carry on. Close that out. Yep. Done that. Tighten it nicely. I haven't missed any steps. And we can now move on to the next CoreXY motor assemblies. Right. Now the XY motors need to be put in. Now I've got to have a look. Let me just have a quick look further down. Okay, the CoreXY motors are going to go in the back where the electronics panel is. So for me to be able to put them into that back piece, I need to turn this machine so that you can see the camera work as we're doing it. So let's first do the preparation work, and then when we finish with the preparation work, we will turn the machine. I'm sure I can turn it on my own. Good day to my wife. Hello. Welcome. And yeah, we're making progress. All going well. And then Robert, yeah, it's actually quite amazing when you see me put the belts in. Then you're going to be quite surprised. It is quite a system for the belts to go in, and how the belts go through all these pulleys, and the way the system works. On a typical printer, like on your Ender printer, you have a motor moving the printer head on the X backwards and forwards. You have on your bed, you have a belt that's moving the back, so you've got a Y motor, and then on your gantry, to move the printer head up and down, you've got a Z motor, right? And that's creating all your up and down movement. But for the X and Y, you have one motor doing X and one motor doing Y. On a CoreXY printer, it's different. Both motors have to work together to move X only. So it can't just turn one motor, because if it turns one motor only, the printer head moves diagonally across the printer bed. You'll see that when we get down to that point. It's quite interesting to think that how this thing's calculating. It needs to turn both belts just to move in a straight line. In any case, let's move on to the next section. We're going to take these plates. Right, again, we're going to use M12 cap head screws. Right, 4 of those. I'm sure my wife looks at this and she says, don't worry, it's my paper. I bought all this paper myself. It's been lying here for a long time, but it's necessary. If you were early in the session, you would have seen how much oil we were dealing with. Quite a bit. I assume you don't have load shedding at the moment in South Africa. There we are, so you're able to actually log in, which is nice. Appreciate. Alright, so these brackets, gotta have a look at them. They drilled funny, printed funny. You'll see the holes are closer closer to the one side, so the spacing between the hole and the external frame over here and this one is different. So just take note of that when you pack it in, and you'll see on the picture, if you look inside here, this spacing over here is smaller than that back spacing, and that's because it has to avoid the motor when the motor's put in. So it's purposely done that way. So you've got to make sure you put it in the right way. So I'm going to Put that through there. And also the hole sizes differ, so actually, I don't even think you can get it the other way around. Just think about it. Yeah, no, the other holes are smaller in any case. I don't think you'll get it in. Now I have a problem. These are probably the only parts I didn't print myself. I thought I'd just use these because you don't see them that much. And as you can see, they don't want to push in. Which means that this hole, when he prints, he's not taking enough compensation into consideration. It'll probably pull through. So let's see if we use the spanner to turn it a bit. See if the Allen key can help us wangle it through. There we go. It's a bit tight, but it will still work. So ABS and ASA, as I mentioned previously, they have a tendency to shrink. So you've got to be very, very careful with them. You actually set up your printer to compensate for shrinkage. Right, making this piece nice and black because of the screws. Oh, and then we also got to make sure which part we're busy with. So on the side of these prints, you'll see there is, I don't know if you're going to be able to see, there's an R there, and this one's on the L. Okay, because we're busy with the left assembly, maybe I should rather just use the left part. I think that would be a better conclusion to. Just trying to get them to go in a bit. Yeah, they're a bit tight, but they will work. Okay. Note to self, just print everything yourself. Or if you want it done right, ask me to do it for you. I'll print your parts for you. Just as soon as I've got this machine up and running, I'll be offering this service. Not just for Abu Dhabi, but also for the Gulf and the region. I will be advertising to print RatRig parts and to print Boron parts and BZ bot parts. Those people that I can see, we can help the community and at the same time, make a bit of money on this for yourself. So when you're ready to order your machines, let me know. Now we can print your parts. I was thinking of when I do print parts for people to actually put it onto a YouTube live stream so that they can watch their parts be printed. I think that's quite a niche, risky, but quite a niche service. Watch your parts print. Let me know. Okay, so put the nuts in. Then we need to do the same for the right hand one. So this was the left. Okay, and this one's the right. Okay. All right, turn the frame opposite. I'm just making 100% sure I'm not making a mistake because the brackets need to be turned a specific way. Sure, his alignment is a little bit still very sus. I hope these parts don't give me problems. If they do, I'll just remove it and print it later again. Make it the objective of the printer to print its own new parts. Oh, so that's something else that lots of guys recommend is once you've built your printer, You've got it up and running. And typically, you've now bought your printer from some parts from someone else that printed them for you. And you've only got one printer. Well, you could run into a serious problem if you crack or break a part. So they actually recommend the first thing, once you've got know how to print and you've got your printing skills up to date, is to actually print yourself a backup set of all the parts. And I think that's something that I will do as well. I'll do a full printout, keep my parts ready for myself in case of something happening. Okay, so we finished that section. We've done the right hand side. Now we need to install them. Okay, but to install them, you're not going to see anything as I turn the machine. So let's turn the machine and then you'll be able to see a little bit more. As you can see, I can pick it up still. Don't know for how long still, but I can do that. Alright, so let's see, what views have we got there? We've got a view of the back. We've got a view of that side. Maybe I should turn it all the way. Let's turn it one more bit, and then we can show you from the back end. You see, okay. So we need to put these parts inside here. So I'm going to put this up like that, point it up roughly where I'm going to be. Yeah, and parts go inside these spaces over here. So they go at the bottom, and this is the right hand one, which is the right side of the printer there. And got to figure out how they showing this. Okay. Just got to go in there. So it's going to go in between here. Now, this is where it becomes a little bit interesting. So my panels are 4 millimeters and not 3 millimeters, and the back panel was actually recommended to be 3 mil, but when I calculated on the diagram, I thought I can get a 4 in. I prefer a 4. Asked some people, they said yeah, they've also got a 4 in, so I thought, well, why not put a 4 in? Let's see if I'm going to be sorry about that or not. Okay. It's there, it's in. So tight. See what the motor still needs to do when it gets there. I'm going to try and tighten these ones first. Because these ones are the pieces that he okay. These are pretty tight. So you can lose up to like 3 or 4 millimeters on some prints if you're not careful. On a 100 by 100 print, I was losing up to almost 1.5 millimeters because of shrinkage, and that's a lot of shrinkage to compensate for if you need to be accurate. Look, FDM printing is not, it's not machining, so you're always going to have a bit of a tolerance in terms of measurements, right? But you should be able to get within like 0.5 of a millimeter, 0.2 millimeter for what I like. But 0.5 I think is probably reasonably acceptable on the parts that I've seen that I've done so far. So you just got to be patient and actually do the work to get it there, and do a lot of printing and measure. And every filament you have to measure. And again, even filaments colors. A black filament and a green filament might have a different shrinkage component, so you have to take that into account. Unfortunately, so you buy eSun or you buy some filament like that, and you think, all right, well, first of all, I did an ABS print in eSun black, and now I'm getting 3DO for argument's sake, or one of the Prusament or one of those guys. And you print and you realize, while they're all black, they differ in size. So each brand is going to be different. And then you take the same brand and you print in green, and then you print in red for argument's sake, and oh my goodness, the sizing is different again. I think black is, can't remember exactly. I think black is one of those that moves the most. Okay, I think that's one thing's for sure. It's not coming out. I think the motor is going to sit in there quite well. Hopefully, it's not going to give me any hassles, because it is a tight fit. I'll just give you a quick look from the top. Let's see, like that. You can see the panel is right up against the panel. So you would not fit a 5mm panel in here, as they say. So don't go with a 5mm. In actual fact, you don't need to go thicker than 4mm. Most guys say, you go 3mm panels all around, it's better. I just know with the heat, I wanted a little bit more, can I say, a little bit more panel to keep the heat in. And that's why I went with a bit of a thicker panel. And so I think it's just personal decision for each person, personal choice. All right, let's try and get the next one in. Do the tough ones first. So as you can see, as I said, in the motors don't sit inside this chamber. So when you're heating up this machine, your motor sits on the outside, and that protects the motor. That's where one of those motors in that machine got damaged. It got too hot for the motor. Now normally motors can run very hot. They can run up to, I think, 80 to 100 degrees. It's something ridiculous, right? But you don't want them running that hot. They can really run hot, but you don't want to. And I think I don't think the motor as such and the coiling got damaged. I think it's more the connector on the side that got damaged somehow, because it was just dead. It was just not responding that well. And so I just had to eventually replace the motors. Now, thank goodness I I've got better motors in that. The original motors are no longer in that printer, because when I did all the upgrades, I decided to do a upgrade on the motors as well to a better quality motor instead of the Chinese motor. And so when I purchased motors, they came in a kit. It was cheaper to buy a kit, and it had one extra motor. So I thought, oh, well, I've got a backup, so I'll do that. Well, it came in quite handy. Anyway, in terms of time, we're doing well. Yeah, getting quite a few things done tonight. Actually, I didn't know I was going to get this far. Although I did pack everything out with good intention, just in case. I think what surprised me was how easy the rails went in. Those were the easiest. So, funny gap this to get into. It's where you wish you had like a gooseneck Allen key that worked a bit better. Can't turn it anymore with that, but that I can turn it with. We haven't had any more cat fights, but unfortunately the one cat hasn't come back down again. He probably decided he's had enough of arguments for the night. Okay, so that one's also in. Looks like that from the inside. Okay. Alright, well, where are we next? Are we going to do CoreXY cage deployment, which sits inside those items there. So, which they're doing the right hand one. No, the left hand one first. And again, we're going to put bolts through, and we are going to do the stacking. Let's just read further before we go along. So drop that in, assume there's two long bolts from somewhere. M614. Where? Feels like I'm missing something. There's 4 M540s that I missed. Where is the M540s? It's over here. M540. Okay. They actually show somewhere to put them in. You can see them. Put them right there, put that there. Ah, there. I missed that step. Okay. Alright, so we're going to need 4 of those. Cool. Put that back in there. There. And then they're starting on the left, so we'll start on the left. Why not? Camera's already pointing to the left one. And we need those parts. You just grab those parts from across the road here. You'll see I'll have all these little dishes. Over time, the motors have arrived, or a extruder, or a screw set, or something like that, and you just collect parts over time. Okay, so that's that part that they're saying I must put on top here. And the grounding goes to the corner, that piece there. Okay. We should actually possibly have some form of overhead camera. We're going to watch all of this. But okay. For now, apologies that you can't see exactly what I'm doing. Although I'm going to need quite a few fingers. In any case, I don't know how much you will see with all my fingers in the way. Okay, that piece going on top there. Goes through nicely. I'll show you when I get to the end. If I can let that go for a second. Probably going to fall out when I do let go. Let's see. Give me a second. I'm going to just switch to the main view here, or the top view. And I'm going to see if I can position this camera for you, so that you can just see a little bit better. It's got funny legs that I can adjust. And yeah, that's yeah, you can see the top. Nice. Okay, that one, and then move that out of the way. Put that there. I assume there's going to be some form of nut at the top. Yes, same nut as earlier. Let me just double check. Size wise. Yep. Okay. So I'll need that. I'll need that. I don't think I'm going to need that, but I'll just take it with me. Okay. Put the tools on this one. And then I can take the mouse and actually get closer to the stack arrangement. Because there's quite a bit happening in that stack. Right. Let me just see, I recognize all the parts. Yep, I do recognize all the parts. Okay. Don't need the names. So we'll start with the one in the very corner and work our way through. Okay, so let's put our fingers over there. We're going to put... I'm going to move this dish to the other side so that I can just get to it. Right, so first of all was the shim. Flange bearing with the flange down. Then a bearing. Guys, if you see me make a mistake, shout in the comments. I'll try and come back and look at the comments, Robert. At least, yeah, you're making great progress, yes. And yeah, it is a big build, Robert. But to get to this quality machine, that's ultimately why I'm doing it. So there was the flange the other way around. And then we're going to go with a shim. Oh, I never removed that other shim. Hey, I must still do that. France, remind me to remove the shim. And then another flange going down. Flange with bearing. After the flange, we have a bearing, straight bearing. Then we have a bearing with the flange at the top. And then we have another shim. These shims are very difficult to pick up with gloves. Okay. Now go to the small stack. And we'll go with start off with a shim. Then a flange with a flange at the bottom. Then a plain bearing. Then a flange with a flange at the top. And then a shim. Okay, and then when you finish that, then as far as I remember, we're going to put the left hand bracket on, I think like that. Ooh. This okay, that's why. Again, then that guy's prints are biting me because the print won't let the screw in all the way, and so they're not going to the top. And so when we want to place the nut inside, it's not going to grip. You need to force them in a bit. Okay, let's see if we can get the nut close. At least with that in place, I don't have to worry about holding it. Probably a positive in everything. Just close that. So once you finish with that, you're going to see that, right? And then I need to just read properly. I'm standing upside down. I can't read what I'm seeing. Where are we in terms of time? Another 20 minutes, okay. Proper installation of the belt is very important. Failure will damage the belt. Okay. So we can install the belt already. Didn't realize we were doing belts already. Or at least a portion of the belt. So that's going to look that way. Okay, the CoreXY belt is provided as one continuous length. Unroll the belt and cut it in half with 2 belts of same length. Position one end of the belt so that the tooth end faces frame, which is that there, frame, and the smooth side faces the bearing stack. Okay, then slot this half into the bottom of the CoreXY assembly. It should align with the bottom bearing stack. Okay, take the other half of the CoreXY belt, again position the belt so that the tooth faces the frame. Yeah, so form a loop. This is the loop that they're talking about over here, and this will be used to engage with the NEMA motor. Yes, it bites into the teeth, right, and then position the belt. Okay, a little bit funny to try and keep that belt in that position. I've actually seen quite difficult to keep the belt there. It's fine, we'll just pull the extra bit. Right. Drop T-nuts in the top. Okay. Then we're going to use those countersunk screws to sink them in, and we're going to put the 5mm hex nuts there, and we're then going to drop that into place. We're basically going to slide it down, making sure that the belt loop remains. Okay, and then tighten the M4 screws, the countersunk screws, and tighten the M5 screws, and then we will go to the motor. Okay, so we're not going to get all of this done tonight. I'm going to, as a first step, just grab the belt and cut it. Although I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to call it a night, and I'm going to think and reconsider whether I should print those pieces again, which are so tight. I'm just worried as the machine heats up they should expand, but I'm worried that they're so tight that over time they crack. I don't like nuts being that tight. So I think I'm going to do that this week, get it prepped, get the belts ready, get everything ready, and then we can finish that installation next week on Friday, which will be the next session as far as I have planned at this point in time. Okay, so yeah, thanks for everybody's support. Appreciate you joining the stream, and please remember to, as they say in the world of streaming, smash the like button and hit that subscribe button so that we can build the stream a little bit, the members on the stream a little bit bigger, and maybe we can get some more people to join next week. All these videos are obviously going to be online this week, and we're going to see how if we can pull more people. Mr. Quinton, I hope all is doing well with the back. Hope you are recovering. Thanks for joining, appreciate it. We'll chat to you soon. Thanks Terry, Robert, France, and my wife for joining. I appreciate the support, and yeah, we'll see you next week. And if there's any questions or anything that I've mentioned that you want to know, please drop some questions in the once I've published the videos, you can drop some comments, and I'll try and get to those as soon as possible. Once again, thank you, and have a good evening. Cheers.